Empower Radio presents Out of the Fog. Join intuitive guide and spiritual teacher Karen Hager for lively, positive conversation with lightworkers, healers, and dynamic wisdom keepers. Get ready for inspiration and connection. This is Out of the Fog on Empower Radio. Here's your host, Karen Hager.
Hello and welcome to Out of the Fog. I'm Karen Hager. Each week at this time we gather for spiritual conversation and enlightening guests, and I'm glad you're here. Time and distance is no barrier to energy, and that means that no matter when you're listening, no matter how you found us, you are here for a reason. And I hope something in the next hour opens a door for you and helps you move forward. So many of us, all of us maybe, are seekers. We're on a path of spiritual growth, of personal development and transformation. There are a blue million books and other resources like this show to bring tools and insight into that journey. And today we've got something very special. We'll gain some perspective from Courtney Amundson. Her channeled teachings about attaining freedom in our daily lives and connecting with the limitless aspects of being human are a powerful reminder to all of us seekers about the divine connection that we all share. Are you ready to meet her? Courtney Amundson began her path as a seeker at a young age, and teachings began to flow through her starting at age 16. After a short time, she was guided to share that with as many people as possible through her book, Teachings from God. Since then, she's worked single-mindedly on getting the teachings out to the public through the work of the book, but also by expanding this into sharing her insights through publishing articles and speaking. In addition to her dedication to the advancement of the teachings, Courtney is actively progressing toward Qigong healing certification as well as craniosacral therapy certification. You can find out lots more about Courtney and her work at teachingsfromgod.com. Courtney, welcome to Out of the Fog.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's going to be a fun conversation. I can just feel it.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad. Sometimes the work of spirit, the work of growth comes through in a lighthearted way, in a playful way. And at least in my experience, keeping that a little bit lighthearted is a great way to raise the vibration.
Oh, definitely. I'm all about that.
How did this start for you? You began as a channel at a very young age. What happened?
Well, it's a pretty amazing journey, I would say. I did not expect for this to ever happen to me. And it's even probably the wrong way to say that, because it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And I know that I played a big role in creating that dialogue that started when I was 16 years old. And I'm 20 now. It wasn't that long ago that this started for me, and it was so natural and it was so beautiful how on this day, which was March 12th, 2012, I really connected with my highest self. And on that day is when this communication started with the universe, and it was such an expansive, amazing energy that I had never felt before. It was unconditional love. It was a wisdom beyond anything I had ever heard or felt before. And such a compassionate energy. And on this day is kind of when my life started to change, and I realized that there's so much more than what our physical bodies hold. There's so much more than what our minds can see. And so in my book is basically some of the deepest laws of the universe, and so many beautiful metaphors that help us to explain how to get through life in the most joyful way, in the most freeing way, in the most unencumbered way. And I think that's what we all strive for. So getting into the actual story of this, I was meditating one day, and I had been meditating for a very long time, probably around the age of 9. I remember really getting into it, and I learned meditation from a Qigong master here in Minnesota who taught me how to manage my own energy, how to heal other people and heal myself, and through energy work. And so all of this kind of primed me to really getting involved with meditation. And I was also involved with the teachings of Abraham Hicks. I loved that. I loved listening to the Conversations with God for Teens CD, and I also got really interested in The Secret and the law of attraction and all of that stuff. So I was into that because I felt like that filled in all the gaps where my education wasn't teaching me that, and my friends weren't talking about stuff like that. So it was kind of just something that I kept to myself in my home, and was just secretly really interested in, and I saved my spiritual life for when I was in, that community, and I would open up more. But the specific day, which was March 12, 2012, I was meditating, and I was taking a break from my schoolwork, and I sat down and I said my usual mantra: I'm in the universe is in my body, the universe and I combine together. And at that moment, I felt something different. I felt that I really came to surrender in a deeper way. And when I did that, this golden liquid light entered through the top of my head. And that's when I felt that there was an angel in my body. The best way I could put it, that there was an angel in my body, because it was light, it was gorgeous, it was effervescent, it was like sparkly golden snowflakes, kind of, and at the same time, like a liquid light. No weight to it. And I felt that I rose above the couch. I was completely in this other realm, space, I'm not even sure. And that's when I felt the energy trickle down into my fingertips, and I realized that they wanted to write or type or give me some message. And I recognized this from learning about Esther Hicks and her first communication with Abraham, and that's how it happened for her. So I knew what was happening, and I went to the computer, and I put my hands down, and I said to myself in my head, I give you permission to come through and to basically tell me what I need to hear. And the words started to type, and it was so beautiful. It was like an instant connection, and I felt that it was beautiful energy and peace and compassion and unconditional love, and they knew me. This energy knew me, and I could understand from the beginning that it was higher than just a singular being. It was like it said it was source energy, and that the universe loved me unconditionally, and that I was here for a mission and to teach many people about who they really are. And I thought, geez, that's a big thing to live up to. But this journey, it really took off from that day. And for the first week or so, I was channeling, and I even hesitate to use that word because to me, it's just coming into your most authentic nature. So, I think that word, everybody has a different meaning, but for me, it's not metaphysical. It's not new agey. It's just what you do when you're in your highest inspiration expression. And so anyways, I was in this space almost all day for an entire week. I would be up all night because the teachings were just flowing through. And I was on this amazing high, this amazing energy, and I felt so connected, and I felt so at peace, and it was incredible. And so now I'm here basically to help other people to find that amazing connection with their divine nature, because we're all connected to the source energy, and we all have this guidance system, and we all have the ability to connect and to start to communicate in the way that I have.
Was there a hesitation as you felt this high, as you felt this rush, and all this work poured through you? Was there a hesitation about sharing it? I heard you say that you compartmentalized your spiritual life, as I think so many of us do or have done, where there's this part of me that is only appropriate in this situation and with these people. There's this other part of me that's my, quote, real normal life, in, heavy ironic quotation marks, part of me. As this poured through you, Courtney, were you hesitant at all about sharing it? Did you wonder what people would think or say about what you brought through?
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because it's so, yeah. I had a lot of fear about sharing it, and it wasn't because I needed validation. There was a part of me that needed validation, but I knew that what this was for me was so true, and there was a big part of me that wanted other people to really experience what I was experiencing. And so I did talk about it with a few select people, and I didn't always get the understanding that I wanted, that I desired. And so I kind of backed off, and I secluded, and I only shared it with people that I thought would really understand. But then there was a piece of me that felt really in the box and felt really like, I want this to be bigger than it is. And I didn't feel like I had found my tribe. I didn't feel like I was ready to share. So there was a big part of me that was veiled for a long time, until I kind of got the tools from my toolbox, my inner toolbox, and I started to, I guess, gain the courage, and I was presented with the courage and the strength and the right words to really start to share my truth from an authentic place. And I think that's where I am right now, and I come up against blocks all the time, but what sticks with me is my ability to say, okay, what is my truth in this moment, and how can I be as unencumbered? How can I take down the veils and be okay with speaking my truth and not worrying so much about what people think? And I've learned that as you do that, those people that are matching your vibration will find you, and you'll find them. And then you find your tribe. And so it's a beautiful thing when you're able to get to the place within yourself where you're confident, where you're ready, and then there's no more fear. And the lack of fear and the lack of resistance draws those people to you, to be part of your tribe, to help encourage you to speak your truth even more. So I totally resonate with that.
And this feels like an important part of your teachings that you bring through in the book about manifestation, that when we try to manifest, anything, our tribe or a relationship or opportunity or greater awareness, when we try to manifest that through fear or through holding on really tight, through looking at ourselves through other people's limits, that often what we manifest is not what we have identified that we want. Sometimes we manifest the opposite because we're manifesting through that limit. How did I do with that?
I think I get where you're going with that. Yeah, it's kind of like what you're holding on to, your resistance that you're holding on to, I guess kind of overpowers your intention sometimes. Your intention to, let's say money for an example, because that's a really strong one. You want money really badly, and you want to have physical abundance so that you can achieve happiness. Maybe that's someone's idea of how they can be happy. but their entire life they've been conditioned to believe that you can only be happy when you have enough physical abundance, when you have money. And so their fear of not having money, or their resistance to not having money for that long, becomes the conditioning that actually overpowers their ability to attract money, because their dominant vibration is not resistance free. It's not allowing money to come into them from a place of being in high vibration, being in the flow, being in your passion. So I think that's what you were talking about, but I'm not fully clear.
Well, and it's to me, part of what I take from the book is that when we remove those limits, which are false limits anyway, but when we remove those limits, remove our hold on those limits, it is much easier to see clearly, just as you did when you let that energy work through your body, speak through your body, put your hands on the keyboard and begin to teach. And when you began to share that, when we step out of those self-imposed limits, I can't do that because they'll think I'm crazy. I can't do that because I think I'm supposed to do something else. This isn't where I thought this was going. That was my story. I thought I knew where I was going, and then it turned out maybe I didn't, because I was going here. That when we step out of those limits, we're able to see a much broader field of opportunity, of abundance, of joy, of connection than we can see when we're looking at it from the old way, from the old box. That's where I think I'm going with that.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I think the more, and my experience has been, the more that I have let go with my own goals. That's not even, I think, the best way I can say it, but my own intentions and my own plan for my life, the more that I've let go of all of those things and say, please just be a conduit, help me to be a conduit, and I'll be open to whatever's next, and I'll watch for the signposts, and I'll stay open and receptive. That's the best way that I think you can live, because you're in the path of least resistance. And instead of declaring what you want and saying, universe, please give me this, and coming from a pleading kind of standpoint, instead of doing that, remain open and realize that you deserve everything that you want, but remain open to what the universe has for you, and follow the signposts, and then you'll get to where you want to be. But it is about being in the path of least resistance as much as possible, and sometimes that can be really difficult. I know it can be difficult.
One of the things that really jumped out for me in the book, there's a quote where Source Energy says through you that when you begin to trust all the information you receive through your physical body, it will always be the correct and best possible time for you to hear it. And that quote, for me, jumped off the page like you'd highlighted it, right? And it makes me want to ask you, how do you learn to trust your intuition? Is it all information we receive through the physical body? How do we know what we can trust, what comes from spirit, and what doesn't? Or is our old programming or conditioning?
It's a very good question. I think I've done a lot of those questioning myself in my life, and where is this coming from? And is this my mind, or is this not my mind? I was asking those kind of questions in the beginning too, and what I was told is all of the discernment comes from our the way that it feels in our body. So if it's coming from the mind, there's going to be judgment attached to it. There's going to be, for instance, no, that wasn't coming from your higher self because you're not good enough, or you're not, you don't have the education to get that job, whatever. And a judgment, and your intuition might have been telling you, put in that job application because you're going to get it. But then you might question if that was just your mind, if it is your mind, there's going to be some kind of judgment attached to it. And if it's your higher self, it is completely loving, compassionate, helpful, and it helps you to feel empowered. It never tears you down. It never says you're not good enough. It never makes you feel like you're in the wrong place. So for me, what I've learned to be more in tune with my higher self is to simply train myself to listen better. And I know that's really unclear as how to do it, but I think it's so personal and individual that you have to, for me, what I did is I just asked the divine, I asked the universe, help me to be as open as I can be to listen. And I said, I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know how this will come through for me, but I'm open. And those are the kind of words that we have to be reminding ourselves about, is that there's free will. And so we are the ones asking the questions. And then we remain open. And usually you can feel in your body, you can feel if it resonates, and you just have to be able to kind of listen, be a little bit more sensitive to listening, and it'll take some practice. So for me, in the beginning, testing my intuition and testing my ability to listen, I got put up to a lot of little, I call them, well, they were kind of tests, but they were often kind of humorous, where I would really have to let go of my own plan and to listen better. And I remember one time Spirit told me, I was on a walk, and Spirit told me, okay, you have to close your eyes now. And I was like, why? Like, I'm on my walk right now. I just want to enjoy the scenery, and and no, close your eyes and keep walking. And I was like, what? I'm walking around a pond in Minnesota, and I'm very aware that if I close my eyes, I could fall into the pond. And I said, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. And I put my arms out to my sides and close my eyes, and I start walking around the pond, and I heard, go a little bit more right, go a little bit more left. And I kept listening, and I didn't get in my head because I was forcing myself to listen to Spirit. And I knew if I did that I would be safe. But I had to trust that, and I had to put everything on the line. So that's the kind of determination that you kind of have to have, I think, to a certain point, because it was a simple task, but it trained me in many other more difficult things that I'd had to deal with in my life, where the stakes were much, much higher, and I had to listen. So you're training your body essentially to feel more, and it's a process.
Well, and you're bringing up something that I personally feel is we don't talk about it enough, which is the idea of faithfulness, the idea of discipline, the idea of determination. It isn't, as I hear your story, it doesn't sound so much like Spirit was testing you. It's almost that you and Spirit were kind of testing what are the limits of this relationship, how will we work together, what are the parameters within which we will communicate, and that, at least in my own experience and in my own work, it's an ongoing process. And sometimes I hear teachings where it sounds like, okay, just flip this switch and then you'll be, yay, and look, we're all connected and we can go off and running. If you really want to tap into this, it does take being still and listening. It does take some discipline. It does take faithfulness. It does keep coming back to the work even after you've gone off the rails.
Mm-hmm. I like the way you put that. Yeah.
I know we have just a couple minutes till the break, and darn it, chronological time,
I know.
which is an illusion and yet not an illusion. in your own spiritual practice, I know that Qigong is an important practice for you. Is that part of how you stay faithful, how you exercise your kind of discipline and growth in your relationship with spirit?
Oh, totally. That's how it began for me. The relationship that I kind of built since the age of 9 with this Qigong master, Qin Lin, here in Minnesota, I really learned from him how to basically detect energy blockages in my body and other people's bodies, and how to remain grounded. And as I've gotten older and gotten better at Qigong, I've gotten a lot more practiced at also from the Qigong perspective, how to connect with your divine and how to become more unified, more one. And so it's been such an essential practice for me, and I feel like it's been such a grounding rod, because I did learn it so young, and I have such a great relationship with him and with Spring Forest Qigong too. So yeah.
Wonderful. Now we're right at the bottom of the hour, and so this is where I say you are listening to Out of the Fog with Karen Hager. My guest is Courtney Amundson. Her new book is Teachings from God, Greeting Your Soul and Revealing the Divine Within. When we come back after this short break, Courtney and I will be talking about why we're here on Earth, what's the purpose of our incarnation, and much more. We'll be right back after this.
Come to the forest. It's a place not so far away. A place where you don't have to mow the lawn or babysit.
I saw lizards and squirrels and ducks, ladybugs, caterpillars. It's really cool, actually.
A place where you don't have to make time for free time.
Lots and lots of kinds of species here.
Out here, you may even meet the mysterious creature known as the other you, the enchanted you.
It's magic what flowers do.
The adventurous you.
My favorite tree, yes, is that one.
The free to be me you. Ask your parents to take you to this not so far away place. Come to the forest, where the other you lives. But first, stop by discovertheforest.org, a public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Do you get tired of styling your hair every day? And do you want a good hairstyle every day? Hi, I'm Sarah Schuster. I went on a website called inventnow.org, and after that, I decided to invent something too. Something called the Insta-Do. Just imagine, you just put it over your head like a helmet does, and you pick your hairstyle with the buttons on the side. Then you can have instant hairstyle in seconds. People like it. People like Jeff Bart.
I like it.
And people like Kenneth. It's this helmet thing, and it fits over your head, and it's great. Thank you, Kenneth. You should go to inventnow.org, and it could help you come up with your own invention. After all, look at me on the radio now.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions, or just play some games at inventnow.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the National Inventors Hall of Fame Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Hey, Larry, mind if I sit down?
Nope.
Oh, this coffee tastes like coffee. So what's going on?
Not much.
What's new?
Not much.
Okay, but can you please put the newspaper down while you say not much?
What newspaper?
This newspaper. Oh, dude. What happened to your face? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Ow.
Dude, what is this? 11 pieces of toilet paper stuck to your face?
I'm shaving in the dark to save energy. I'm helping the environment.
That's a dangerous way to help the environment.
Well, sometimes you have to sacrifice yourself for the greater good.
Dude, there's an easier and safer way to help the environment without sacrificing yourself. Go green, go public. Take public transportation. It's good for the environment, and you won't have to live behind a newspaper.
Wow.
But for now, put the newspaper back up.
A message from the public transportation systems across the country. To learn more, visit publictransportation.org.
And now back to Out of the Fog with Karen Hager on Empower Radio. EmpowerRadio.com.
Welcome back to Out of the Fog. I'm Karen Hager, and I'm in conversation with Courtney Amundson. Her new book is Teachings from God, Greeting Your Soul and Revealing the Divine Within. You can find out more about Courtney and her work at teachingsfromgod.com. And of course, I would love to hear your feedback about the show, any questions that are coming up for you as you're listening. I would love to know if there are any others listening who feel that they are channels. What do you receive from Spirit? What does it feel like as Spirit is working through through you? And how do you feel called to integrate that into your daily life? You can always reach me through my website, KarenHager.com. And you can email me directly if you like. That email address is Karen@KarenHager.com. Courtney, we were talking about, before we went to the break, the practices of Qigong and other ways in which we can kind of stay on that spiritual journey, keep that discipline, that determination, that faithfulness. And I know that a big piece of the book is about looking at why are we here? What, as you receive it from Spirit, why are we here? Why do we do this whole Earth School thing? What on earth is the point of all this?
Mm-hmm. Well, in a very, very simple way, we came here to have fun. And it sounds crazy sometimes because the human experience can be so difficult and so turbulent, and it can really be scary sometimes, to be honest. And we've all experienced that, but we've all experienced joy, and we've all experienced connectedness and love and companionship and all of these things tie in with emotions. And the human being is amazing because we have emotions. We have this ability to basically discern two different events and say, I like that one or I don't like that one. And in detail, really feel very different things from those experiences. And so source energy loves to basically dial into this little human body and to experience emotions. It's a big part of why we are human. And we are learning that contrast. We're learning how to funnel ourselves in a small three-dimensional box, called the human being, and to experience life, experience our life in a new way. And so part of the joy from the universal perspective is not knowing everything, is not having that bird's eye view. And because it takes the fun away to be all knowing all the time, to, not have this experience where you kind of forget who you are and go into this weird delusion, and that's kind of what it's like to be human. We get birthed into these little bodies, and we kind of run around aimlessly for 90 years, 80 years, 70 years, if you're lucky, and then you croak, and then you're back into source energy again, and it's a very mind-boggling thing. But there's so many facets to the human experience, and every individual has their own soul's purpose and has their own divine plan. And what I've learned is we all create our divine plan, that there is no source that is separated from us that's creating our life plan. We are the ones that are doing that. So it's amazing to think about it like that we're really the creators of our destiny, that we're part of God, we're part of source energy. And so we've never been looked down at. It's not God is bigger than human beings. It's not God is more wise than human beings. We're co-creating an experience together. And we chose to be in these bodies to have a certain experience that was going to benefit. We knew in those specific ways how it was going to benefit our soul's growth. And then going forward, we would be more awakened to our true authentic nature. And our authentic nature is knowing that we're part of source energy, is knowing that we have a guidance system with us always, knowing that we're part of this divine, that we're not below, we're not separated, we're not less. And so there's a lot of learning that goes on. But when you do get to a point in your evolution where you start to ask these kind of questions, it means that you've already learned a lot on this earth plane. You've already had a lot of experience to be able to start to ask those questions. And then you have these little, graduations along the way where you kind of reach a new level. And so I think the goal is to be in our truth as much as possible and to, find our soul's purpose, which means follow your bliss and do nothing out of obligation and be as resistance-free as possible and find ways that help to expand your spirit and to remember that there's no right or wrong. That's a difficult one. But when you empower yourself into this position where you know that, and here's where I'm at right now too, is like, okay, I'm human. I'm going to experience these emotions. I'm going to experience contrast and pain and suffering. And then I remind myself, okay, and also you're connected to a higher source that is guiding you, that is always with you. And then I remind myself how, okay, stop yourself and then tune in. And I keep bringing myself back to that place where, okay, please show me the way, please guide me, I will listen. And that's when I move into, the next stepping stone to, my highest expression. And that's what is following your soul purpose. It's being in that present moment and allowing yourself to be open and allowing yourself to follow your bliss and not doing things out of obligation and fear and regret and resentment and whatever else it might be, victimhood. And knowing that you're worth everything and you're not mixed in millions of people. You're a beautiful, distinct grain of sand, part of the whole. And what's amazing is that God, source energy, the divine, whatever name you have for it, really sees you that way, really sees you and knows you personally. And so it's about being in that flow, finding your connectedness to the divine, opening up your heart, grounding your energy, and being open to, doing that journey and connecting with the divine and being of service to yourself and only to yourself. And then your soul purpose starts to come through and you move with it without fear. And you see more joy in your life. You see more connectedness. And you find that, yes, I am the creator of my reality. And yes, I do have the power of living with joy. And so for me, that's what it is.
I often talk to people. So part of my work is working with people who are in transition and often moving from one phase in their life to another phase, whether that's a spiritual awakening or an event has happened and there's been some kind of shift. I often hear people say that they worry that maybe they won't ever find their life purpose, that they maybe knew it once or agreed to it before they got in their body, but now they've forgotten it. They don't know what the heck they're doing. And there's a real fear sometimes that we might go through our lives and never get it, never see it, never make it. And then when we get back to source, that source is going to go, well, I'll give you about a C+, but it wasn't very good. And you were supposed to be a brain surgeon. Oh, did you miss that part? Oh, well, too bad. There's a kind of a sense, I think, that people carry of missing it. what do your teachings say? How can the teachings help us with that?
Well, you know what? I think if you're already in that place where you're questioning whether you're in the right place, you're halfway there, because, only the people that are really got their heads in the sand are the ones that never realized that there was a purpose to their life. They never realized it. And then they transition and, they leave their physical bodies and then, oh my gosh, clarity again, expansiveness again, and they come back into their wholeness. And it's never, there's no judgment from source perspective. There is none. And whether we see progress or not, if you look at someone, after they've passed and you think, well, geez, they didn't really follow their soul purpose. They were, for example, they were a dentist their whole life and, they really should have been a, classical pianist or whatever. That's a judgment from a human. And from source perspective, everything is perfect. Everything is right. There is no wrong. There is no, oh, you didn't do good enough. Because every action is divinely inspired. The difference is that when you are conscious of what you're doing, you can have more fun. And you can, get a little bit more ahead. But there is no, how do I put this the right way? It's not that, for example, my life path is not better than someone else who is maybe not awake, because in the end, they're going to figure it out. And it doesn't matter the time that it takes them to get there. Everyone has their own soul's evolution. The way I see it, okay, maybe I get it right now. Maybe I feel like I know my soul's purpose, but I probably had a lot more practice. So you have to see it that way. This isn't the only lifetime to get it figured out. Also, you can't beat yourself up, because I think, the more that you kind of victimize yourself and make yourself feel small, if you are able to notice when you are doing that, you're taking your own power away. For me, whenever I have noticed that, my challenge to myself is to let go of that and to remind myself that I'm more than just this human being, and I have the capability to draw upon my higher knowledge to gain guidance. And what opened that for me was my ability and my determination to set aside my humanness for a minute, and to, that took some practice to do that, to put away my own motivations. That's the word I was looking for when I was saying plan, motivations. To put my own motivations aside and to let the guidance come through. And that's when it came. But when you're frustrated and when you're spinning in that circle and saying, what's wrong with my life and why isn't it all coming together and why don't I know what I'm doing? It's because you're holding yourself in that pattern. And once you really surrender and you say, okay, once you notice that you're the one that's doing that and it's not God's fault, it's not other people's fault, it's really that, for some reason, you're holding on to that pattern or thought process that's telling you that you're lost, you're alone, you're whatever it is your story is, that's holding you in that place where you can't sync up with that higher vibration, where you can't hear the guidance. It's always coming. It's always there. But we have to sort of reach this equilibrium in order to hear the guidance. And so if you feel like you're not on the right path, then, tune into yourself and ask yourself, what makes me feel good? What makes me feel like time just flies by when I do it, and I don't have to, think about it, and I don't worry, I don't stress. those are powerful keys and powerful tools to help you to determine, what really makes you tick. And a lot of times as kids, that's our prime time to when our passions start to come through and with clarity. So you can even maybe bring yourself back mentally, bring yourself back to when you were a kid, a young person, and what inspired you then before you got, all these fears about money, all these fears about not being successful or not having a good job, or what are other people going to think if they see me doing this? You got to set all of that aside and not care about that at all in order to get to this place where you can really just feel what you feel and not have judgment about it. Say, okay, I feel really inspired by writing, but maybe in your family, if you start thinking about what other people are going to think, if you become a writer, it shuts you down. So when we get older, we have a lot of triggers, a lot of things that shut us down. And you want to try to take those veils down, see what really is, underneath all of that. And then, add some gas to that fire, and you'll see it expand and grow, and you nurture that. And then you start to see, oh, I'm feeling really alive right now. And then maybe you join a writing group, and, oh, they're really cool. They support me, and I feel really good in this group of sharing. And then pretty soon you find other connections, and you're on your path. So that's how it works. That's how it works for everything. So you have to believe in yourself and just really take the time to go inward and have no fear and put all of your trust and determination in the divine. And listen.
And keep listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Keep listening especially when you don't feel like you're receiving anything. That's the time to maybe listen the hardest, in my experience. Right? It's being present even when things aren't joyful. Being present through everything that is, even the things that aren't all happy kittens and surprises.
Mm-hmm. And there will be tests, and there always are, and it's not a personal thing. It's not the universe, saying, are you good enough? Are you going to get it this time? It's not like that. It's more like, you allowing yourself a space to grow. And when challenges come up, you will maybe see yourself going back into patterns that you're not really proud of, and that's natural, and that's fine, and don't beat yourself up for that either. But allow yourself to surrender deeper and deeper when those experiences come up. Like you said, you listen more, and you try to deepen through that. And I certainly have noticed that, sometimes, like, when I feel really, really human and fragile, I'm kind of stubborn about it. It's like, no, I want to be really human right now and feel mad about this or feel sad about this. And then I shut that communication off. And so it happens to all of us. But when you just really surrender and, please show me the way and listen, it does come through.
What is it that you would most like listeners to know, that you'd most like readers to know? What would you most like people to take away from this conversation?
I would say this power is within each and every one of us, that we're all part of this source energy, and no matter, and I'm feeling that probably a lot of people, as they're listening to this, are thinking, well, okay, this does resonate with me, and I feel like this is all really good intentions, and I'll draw upon a lot of these things, but I'm not really in the place where I can really do this. You know, I have a job, I have plans, I have blah blah blah, and I'm not really that intuitive. I hear that a lot. Like they try to say to me that, you know, well, it's a cool gift that you have, but I'm not really like that. And what I try to say is, you know, you just haven't cultivated it. We all have it. And the most important message and what I'm trying to really drive through my book and my mission is that everybody has this ability. And the more that we can find our divine power within us and use the tools that are innately there, the more that we're going to find the answers on our own and not have to really have codependency and bow down to other people and ask other people for answers. Because we're the leaders. Every one of us is a leader, a teacher. And everybody has a special gift to share. So it's not about, you know, the next big spiritual teacher or the next big, you know, whatever. It's about every single person using their divine inspiration to, you know, make a mark. So that's really important to me.
And that I see as a bigger, as an evolution in the way that we see ourselves and experience ourselves as spiritual beings who are embodied, who are in physical bodies, that understanding that even though we all express our gifts in different ways, in unique ways, we are all tapping into those gifts through that same power, which I experience as the power of the divine, the power of source. And that's deeply empowering. And we're all, as I see it, able to access this in our own way, to our own ability, in our own time. And what's required of us really is to keep kind of riding that wave.
Absolutely. That's what I say too, is it's not just, you know, the word channeling to me, it's not just about, you know, kind of how this book came about. It's also, you know, the musician and the painter and the writer and the, you know, the builder and the baker and everything. It's when that inspiration comes through, you're in a path of least resistance. You're tuned in and you're open and you're receiving and you're sharing, and that's what it is. That's what that is. That's God's source energy flowing through you. You do have it. Every single person has this. And recognizing it and utilizing it and like really shredding it, I guess. It's really important.
Can you let listeners know how they can get in touch with you, how they can find out more about your work, and what's coming up for you? I know you're teaching and doing interviews. What's coming up for you?
Well, I really do hope to travel. I hope to spread this around the world and meet people all around the world and help people to inspire themselves. I see travel part of my future, but also, like everyone else, I'm just remaining open and listening and watching and so I think that is where I am right now. But as far as how to find me, my website is teachingsfromgod.com. And that's the book title. And on my website, you can find all my social media links and all of that, as well as other interviews I've done and my book. So that's all right there on my website, teachingsfromgod.com.
That is wonderful. Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show today. You have it's a fresh voice and a very special gift. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. And also I want to say thank you to everyone that's listening, because I can feel supported and it just really great space and energy.
Wonderful. Thank you. That is Courtney Amundson. Her new book is Teachings from God, Greeting Your Soul and Revealing the Divine Within. You can find out more about Courtney and her work at teachingsfromgod.com and all those social media links for Courtney. I so often, as a teacher of intuitive development, connect with people who feel like they don't know how to listen. Courtney said something really important about listening and what I would call listening with all your senses, not just listening with your ears, but listening with the heart, listening with the imagination, which is a very powerful tool for intuitive growth, listening with your emotions. Right? All of this is very important when you are wanting to connect. Our reaching for the divine, our connection with the messages, the learning, the tools that are there for us to use that move through us. That connection isn't something we have to reach for, something we have to grab for. That connection is something that we already possess. And so this isn't about grabbing. This is more about reconnecting with something else that already is. And thank you for listening today. Together we are spreading a little more light in the world, and a little more light is always a good thing. Until next time, I'm wishing you peace.